Prince Magnum channel, where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to Guilty Pleasures Cooking. In today's episode of Guilty Pleasures Cooking, we're going to talk about a very important part of cuisine. It's something that I think in some way, shape, or form, just about every culture has a version of this, has, several versions of this. We're going to talk about soup. Now, soup is one that has been so important to us for so many years that it even has a meal named after it, supper. So, hence the title today, Today We Supper. Soup, we're going to talk about. Now, in my hand is how we normally get our soup nowadays. It's kind of a shame, because this is loaded with enough sodium to choke a blue whale's aorta, which ironically enough, I keep something like this around and then thin it out with some milk, and then I can turn it into a sauce, for a simple pasta dish. But we're definitely not going to use this for soup, okay? For our soup, what is the one soup that we all turn to when we get sick? Whether it's the cold, influenza, the flu, or say you're in quarantine. You guessed it, chicken noodle soup. Now, when you talk chicken noodle soup, again, most of us turn to a can. But I'm hoping after this particular episode, many of you might try just the way you're about to see. Now, there's several ways to get to the same spot. And ironically enough, we're going to do it only one particular way. And I'm going to show you guys how to interchange some things. And it'll make an amazing chicken noodle soup for any one of you. And again, I hope that many of you are inspired by the end of this video to give this a try yourself. Alright? Now, first up, this is going to have some things that are suspended in a liquid. Okay? So, the first thing that we need is a good liquid. Okay? Now, obviously, water is an amazing liquid. It's a great solvent. It's the universal solvent. But water doesn't bring too much flavor to the party. So one of the first liquids that we need is chicken broth. Now, this is a low sodium chicken broth that anybody can get their hands on. Any one of your local grocery stores will carry something just like this. Now, broth, homemade, takes time. It takes a lot of time. And when we're talking chicken noodle soup, you're going to be talking chicken broth. Most chickens that make it to market, where you would be making a broth from it, don't carry a whole lot of flavor. Because from egg to plate, they don't have a whole lot of time to develop a lot of flavor. I think it's something like 6 weeks from hatch to when slaughter. That's not enough time. And every few years they knock like a day off of that time. So the chickens are growing pretty dang fast nowadays, and it's not enough time to get flavor out of it. So the best way to get a good chicken broth is go ahead and go down to your local grocery store and get it like this. But I would definitely suggest getting the low sodium version. Okay, more on that a little bit later, because it's going to seem like a lot of information, but it's actually really simple. You're going to need a good chicken stock. Now, this is homemade chicken stock, and I made this myself a few days ago. Made several, made a lot of it. I literally made 8 quarts, okay? Now, already you see chicken broth and chicken stock. Now, ironically enough, there are a lot of folks that will interchange, these terms and they're not the same. Chicken broth is made from the flesh, the meat of the chicken, okay? So that's where chicken broth comes from. And ironically enough, if you trace the origins of the word broth, it kind of stems from brew. And this goes all the way back to the Middle Ages. As a matter of fact, one of the times we see this turn up in history is during dealing with the Black Death. The Black Death being the plague, the Black Plague that, ravaged Europe. Well, there was actually a particular brew or broth called plague broth, okay? And it was in helping deal with the Black Plague, all right? And so that's actually medieval terminology there. Now over here, stock is a little bit different. It's made from the bones of the animal, which that's why it's so easy to make at home. It's time consuming, but it is easy to make. Which, if any of you put in the comments section below that you want to see how to make your own chicken stock, we'll be glad to teach you guys that, okay? But for right now, if you don't know how, go ahead and buy it from the store. But again, go ahead and go to the carton version. It'll be just fine. But you want a good chicken broth and a good chicken stock. Now, again, stock is made from the bones of the chicken, and then again, we're back to medieval terminology. Stock, in this case, refers to a tree that doesn't have any limbs on it. Ironic there. So, now, really quick, why chicken broth and chicken stock? Okay, now stock, when you go to make it, and a good soup always has a certain mouthfeel. Even though it's a liquid, this is a liquid, this is a liquid. What's the difference? Stock brings a certain mouthfeel to the party, if you will. Kind of stays around. Even though you're sipping it, it kind of stays with you a little bit, doesn't it? A good soup always kind of stays around. Like, even though you've swallowed it, there's still a flavor there. What causes that? Gelatin. Or in this case, collagen, which, if we were to clarify this, we would make gelatin. And of course, we know that gelatin makes America's favorite dessert, Jell-O. Okay? So a good soup always has some stock added to it. And you always know a good soup because when you refrigerate it, it almost gets kind of Jell-O-like. Okay? Which is why we're going to use this. Now, really quick, and this would definitely fit into in your face, but there's a lot of companies out there selling this collagen sort of stuff in like pill form and things like that to improve your health. All that is just stock, okay? Just stock, and you can make it at home. Don't spend the money, okay? So these are two of the liquids that we're going to need right out of the gate. Now, as I said, if you can't make your own chicken stock, go ahead and buy chicken stock. But if you don't have that available, 3 chicken bones simmered along with in the cooking vessel, in this case a slow cooker, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, will do the same job. It's just, basically you put the chicken bones in with your chicken broth and let it simmer for a couple of hours, pull the chicken bones out, and then add in the rest of the ingredients, which we're getting ready to talk about now. All right, very traditional. We turn to egg noodles, and in this case, it's going to be 16 ounces of egg noodles. Along with that, if you have an allergy to eggs, go ahead and use the egg-free ribbons, just like this here. You can get these at just about, again, I got these from the local Walmart at a really reasonable price. But for tradition's sake, we're going to go ahead and stay with the egg noodles. Along with that, you're going to need a couple of lemons, and you're going to need the basically you're going to need the zest and the juice of these 2 lemons right here. If you do not have lemons, a couple tablespoons of apple cider vinegar will still get you in the ballpark, but we're not going to use apple cider vinegar. But if you wanted to and didn't want to use the lemons, you could do this too. All right, that's pretty much our ingredients. Okay, egg noodles, chicken broth, chicken stock, a couple of lemons. That's it. That's all we need. And our slow cooker right here. Now, I know some of you are going to be tempted to call this slow cooker a crock pot. Don't do that. Crock pot, in this case, is a name brand, okay? This is a slow cooker not made by the same company that makes the crock pot. The crock pot is a slow cooker, but again, name brand. I know some of you are kind of lost. Even though it looks like a crock pot, it's a name brand. Slow cooker, all right? It's kind of like in the car world when dealing with body putty. everyone immediately, when you say Body Putty, they're like, Bondo. Well, no, that's a company. That's actually a name brand of Body Putty. The company 3M makes Bondo Body Putty, which is very commonplace. But there are other companies out there that make Body Putty, so not all Body Putty is Bondo. Okay, just like all slow cookers are not crock pots. So, something to think about. Alrighty, so we have our ingredients right before us. Now, I would keep a couple of cartons of chicken broth on hand, and we'll get to that soon enough. Alright, so let's plug in our, if you haven't done so and you're following along for this particular recipe, plug in your slow cooker and turn it to low. Alright, and we're going to add in our egg noodles, all of them. Set that off to the side. We're going to add in 1 full quart of our chicken broth. Okay. We're going to add in our chicken stock, which again, this is homemade. Now again, if you don't have chicken stock, you can, on hand, three chicken bones will do the job. Do the same exact thing. Just simmer that in the chicken broth for a couple of hours, and then turn up the heat to low. Remove the chicken bones, and then just go ahead and add in your ingredients, and you can start right here then. Or you can buy the carton stuff. Either way. But again, stay with low sodium. And I guess we're going to go ahead, because it is a soup, we're going to add in 1 more chicken broth. Okay? Now, this may seem like a lot of liquid, but it's really not in this particular case. And let me explain. In this particular case, the noodles are going to drink up a lot of the cooking liquid. And because it's going to drink up a lot of the cooking liquid, automatically, because of that, it's going to drink down some of our basically the noodles are going to drink up some of the liquid. It's going to shrink down a little bit. So don't worry about it. I knew what I was trying to say. And yes, I'm purposely going to leave that in there. Not every day Prince Magnum does everything 100% perfect. Alright, so from here we're going to go ahead and remember to remove the sticker before you do this. But we're going to add in the zest, no pith, if you will, to our liquid. Okay? Don't have to get every ounce of it off, but doggone it, it does help if you can get as much off and add it into the soup. And this is just a little bitty box grater that I picked up. You can use like a brand, a wood rasp that's not ever been used, but get something like a small grater that you can use, just like this. And it does a great job for doing zest. Don't bother with the bar graters. I have found that the bar graters, you got to chop it up anyway, so just skip all of that and get something like this. Okay, it makes things so much easier. And for those that are wondering why lemon zest, okay, there's with the essential oils in the skin of lemon and all citrus, really, that's where the real flavor is at. Ironically enough. All right. When dealing with knives, please be careful. Get out our juicer. There's one. And there's the last of our lemon juice. Okay? That's all we need. Alright? Now, other flavors and things can come later on as we choose. Completely and totally up to us. But for right now, this is all you need. Now again, I've showed you basically several ways to get to this moment. From here, we're going to let our slow cooker do its thing, do its voodoo. Alright? So we're going to put the lid on, and occasionally we'll come back and check on it. Now, you might want to make sure that you've got a little extra chicken broth on hand in case you need to top it off a little bit. Evaporation, okay? Or you can even use chicken stock. Either liquid will do just fine, and not every chicken noodle soup is always going to come out exactly the same. And that's one of the beauties of this. But in every instance, it should always taste good. Now, if you do need to speed up things a little bit, you can turn it up on high, but don't leave it there because of evaporation again. Otherwise you'll constantly be, So leave it on low, or in my case, I'm going to turn it up for about a half hour. Come back, turn it down on low, let it finish cooking. Alright? So, I'll see all of you at the end of this stretch. Alrighty folks, our soup is done. Really all I had to do was I had it on for about a half an hour on high, turned it down to low, let it cook so I just felt good with the consistency. From here, I could just turn it on, keep it warm, okay? And obviously, most of us aren't going to eat this all at once, so refrigerate for up to a week, or you could freeze it and keep it a lot longer than that. And then by bringing it back to temperature, you can just throw it right back into the slow cooker and let it come back up to temperature. Now, this is definitely the time to grab yourself a bowl. And, let's see, where's my, there it is, there's my ladle. Perfect. So from here, occasionally giving a stir, right like that. And then you can just take your ladle and ladle on the goodness, right like that. So you get plenty of the liquid that goes with it, because after all, this is soup. And there you go. Come back. You got the spatula in there to do a stir. You got the ladle to serve. Now, from here, definitely a time to grab out your favorite crackers, like the oyster ones myself. But you can get whatever kind of crackers you like, or you can make some garlic croutons and put them in there. Absolutely amazing. Now, I hope this has inspired all of you to consider making your own homemade chicken noodle soup. Now, really quick, since this channel does talk about romance, talks about it a lot, I know there's going to be some guys that'll say, well, I'm not going to do that for my other half. But let me kind of put it to you like this. Canned soup, homemade chicken noodle soup. If you will, this is you. This is the guy she warned you about. For those of you guys out there that say you don't have to do this sort of thing for your other half. So, from here, I'm getting ready to enjoy homemade chicken noodle soup. But before I do, be sure to check out the Teespring store and get all your merchandise needs from the Prince Magnum channel, or get on over to Patreon. For $1 a month, you become a member of the High Mileage Club. Which brings me to a very important point in this video. It was actually a couple of Patreon members, from the High Mileage Club that suggested this video. So, from here, I'd like to remind all of you, get out there and work on a project. I don't care what it is, just do something with yourselves. Remember, idle hands and a creative mind go together like oil and water. If you have a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet and do something special for them today. And as always, for every last one of you out there, no one out there has told you that they love you today. Prince Magnum does. God bless you, and have a happy 24. Thank you.
I admire your honesty. Hell, I like you. You can come over to my house and fuck my sister.